So today we are going to be taking a look at a scenario where civilization starts over. Yeah, I'm doing one of these now. I feel like I've wanted to do one of these for a long time, and I am finally starting my own wicso series. So subscribe, I guess. The first thing I want to establish is that people are already living in a lot of different places here. Like, this is not a completely barren world map as it looks. There are already people living basically everywhere. There are people living in all parts of the world except for like the frozen wastelands. But there are people living in North America, in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, even some in Australia. But there's no like kingdom. It's all just little villages, and there's not really anything, like no government, no nothing. They're just living in little villages. However, eventually in South America, a great civilization is going to emerge on one of these rivers. So it's going to be this river right here, and eventually a small little group is going to emerge right around this river, and they are going to build like a lot of infrastructure around here, very advanced for the time. Well, not very advanced for now, but very advanced for the time. They're going to build docks on the river and on the coast here, and eventually a small civilization is going to start right along this Brazilian coast. And this civilization is a absolute monarchy. There is a king in charge of this civilization, and he is pretty brutal. But for now, he's going to be in charge, and he's going to want to expand a lot. He takes over all of this explored land, and then orders more exploration to be done around this area, meeting up with this river and this one, eventually moving down to this coast and over here. So now we have this little civilization in this Rio Grande area. So the king is going to order his people to continue to settle these areas and develop them, and they do. They develop all the way up to here, where they notice it's a bit warmer than it is down here, although not by much. And eventually a major city is going to be formed right on the tip of this river, at the mouth of it on the Atlantic Ocean. And this city is going to begin to prosper. It's going to become essentially the capital. So the king continues to expand. It goes south a little bit here, trying to find if there's any more resources available here. They kind of create this little like hook, and they continue to explore. They explore inland a little bit, eventually meeting up with this river, and they kind of follow it. However, all the explorers that were on this mission ended up dying, so the king is pretty mad at that. So he sends out these huge waves of explorers to try to recover what the dead explorers had on them, because they had a lot of valuable material. And eventually they do find those dead explorers, but the people here also end up dying due to the technology not being very good, and there being basically no communication. So the king obviously isn't very happy about these failed explorations, and the people are also not very happy because there's just random people being sent out and dying. So a revolt is going to begin, this pink revolt over here in the south area of this country, and this revolt is going to be looking for a better government and a better king. They're going to try to overthrow the current king, and maybe even form their own kingdom. So they encircle this small green kingdom here. They follow up the river, and they eventually get the capital into a siege, and this siege will eventually lead to the pink team here winning. So in the peace treaty, we can see that the pink team gets all of this land and even a little more. So they're going to set up a new government here as a capital city, and they are eventually going to get a new king. So at this point, these two countries still kind of hate each other. The original king of this country has died, but the son of that king also still hates this king. These two are just beefing with each other constantly. However, we're going to take a break from South America a bit and look at the other side of the world here in Malaysia. So at the very tip of the Malay Peninsula here, in the Strait of Malacca, we're going to see a new civilization emerge over here and on Sumatra. We're going to have all these islands be under their control, and they're going to begin building a lot of infrastructure in this area. They're going to set up a little currency that uses these special rocks, and they're going to be a quite advanced civilization for their time. We're definitely going to be a lot more advanced than these guys. These guys are kind of like, they kind of use like a bartering system. There's not really any money. The laws are a lot looser. Here the laws are a lot more in place and strict. So this is going to be the blue civilization, and they are going to be in control of all of these islands in this strait. So this country's capital is going to be right in Singapore, and their king is going to actually be a special type of government where instead of the king's son being the leader, the king will actually choose one of his officials to be the next leader. So they have a strange, sort of different kind of government. Eventually, these people will continue to explore the island of Sumatra. They will find some mountains in this central area, but they will continue to explore because their technology is quite advanced for the time. They send out these little sailboats and they eventually capture all of these islands over here, and even this one. And on this island here, they're going to lay claim to it, and they're going to set up a major city on this island. And there's going to be some trade between this and this. However, the boating expeditions between them takes quite a long time, and you have to stop at all these little islands. So this island is kind of neglected, and this city is very isolated. There's not much food here, so it has a very low population. So we'll see what happens with this city here eventually. Anyways, back to South America. There's going to be some more exploration around these areas. These two countries are very greedy for land, and they want to beat out the other and get the best land possible. So these countries are going to be following up these rivers here and avoiding all the areas that are not adjacent to a river because they are scared of another repeat what happened over here. They just don't want people dying. So they're sticking to the coast and just exploring these safer areas where they know they can just follow the coast and go back home. So these inland areas are going to remain unexplored. So eventually the green team is going to send out an expedition up here along this river, and a lot of people are going to die. However, they eventually make it all the way over here, and they find that this is a very good spot for another city. However, some of the explorers here want to create their own country instead of making this a colony of this country, due to it being quite far away, and they're scared that they're not going to be able to make it back home without dying because a lot of people died on the trip here. So they are going to set up their own major city in this little area. It is going to be part of this new red team, and this red team is going to start right here. This red team is going to be very poor. It's going to have a very small population. However, it is a self-sustainable country, so they are going to be able to survive for now, but they're probably eventually going to be conquered, or they'll just die out because of how small they are. So at this point that we see some expansion from both the pink and green teams, they're going to continue to explore some of this land that is around them and claim it as their own so they can develop it and create more farmland, because they are having very big population booms right now and they need to stabilize and feed their economy and their people. This coast down here is going to be a lot of farms and fishing spots for this pink team. They're going to have a ton of stuff down here. And eventually a pretty major city is going to develop right about here on this little thing, this little piece of land. So they're going to have another major city eventually down here. So that is 2 more major cities for this pink team, and eventually is going to surpass the population of this green team. So the green team here is going to be looking at what the pink team has done, and they're going to want to get their own version. But instead of just going up here and taking this, they're going to try to take some of the pink team's land, and because they hate them so much, they're just going to do this anyways. So they're going to be declaring war on the pink team. So these troops will move in. Obviously, this country's army is not very strong because there's not much technology, but they do have some basic stone and even some bronze tools. Nothing too impressive though. And they're going to move up over here, and they're going to focus on this river here. So they're going to encapsulate all of these troops. They're going to take this river, and eventually these troops are going to be circled in. And there's not really much they can do about this. But the capital over here is nice and safe, but they are still very worried about all these troops. Eventually, these green team forces are going to continue to move in. The green team is conscripting people like crazy and sending them all to fight on this front line so that they can take this land and secure it as their own. And eventually the pink team is just going to have to surrender. So all of this land is going to go over to the green team. And now they have this nice chunk of land over here. And the green team immediately after that is going to continue to expand upwards and into this river area. And they immediately set up tons of farms over here. They had captured some people from the pink team and set them up as slaves. So now there are like plantations over here where slaves are working. And it is very brutal, and the pink team does not like this at all. In addition, the red team up here also hears about this war due to some people coming up over here and telling about them. So the red team is also pretty angry about that, but the red team is so small anyways. Speaking of this red team, they are going to try to be taking some of this land over here, this coast. They know that the coast is very valuable in this area, So they are going to be continuing down, eventually meeting up with some small villages over here, and they are going to be trying to assimilate these people into their culture and then moving them up over here, which the green team does not like, because these are kind of like their peoples, even though they're not in their kingdom, these are their peoples. So that further strains the relations between these two, even though this guy's very far away. However, that might not be the case for forever, because the red team is now planning to do a very big expansion. Eventually, the red team's government is going to be a legitimate government instead of just this little thing here where the major city is going to become an actual capital. So now the red team is officially a country and not just a strange little settlement. So they are going to be expanding down this coast and up into this area, and they are going to be taking this little bay, as well as the areas that they assimilated, kinda. And now they're getting quite close to the green team's core territory, and the green team does not like this at all. The green team is a very hostile and aggressive country, and they don't really like anyone expanding and impeding upon their territories. So the green team is going to send up some troops over here, and they're going to meet up with the red team troops, and they're going to have a little skirmish. And nothing really is going to come out of this, but these two definitely hate each other. However, there's a small group of people that live in this area that identify both with this red team culture and this green team culture. At this point, it's been like 50 years since they started assimilating these peoples, and the skirmish was like 10 years ago. So there is now a group of people that has lived their entire generation with both these cultures, and they want to identify as their own culture that is sort of a blend. So they are going to be starting their own little nation, and they're going to be trading with both the green and the red teams. They're going to have good relations with both of them. They don't really care about the pink team, but they're going to be trying to keep good relations with these two. And they are going to set up a small major city over here, and it's going to be their capital. But it's still quite a small city because they just started. So anyways, we now have these 4 countries in South America. Now let's go back over to Malaysia and see how they're doing. So at this point, Malaysia has discovered a very large amount of this southern Malay Peninsula, and they have met up with the Indian Ocean coast of Sumatra here, and they're going to be doing some expanding, obviously, because they want some of that coast. They see the Indian Ocean coast is like better than this coast over here. They don't really know why. They just connect more with this Indian Ocean coast. They see it as superior. They like the waters better there. They think they're calmer. There's more fish. So they are going to be sending a lot of people over from this area and into this Indian Ocean coast. And a lot of people that live in this original area are not going to like that too much, because this is like the core city in Singapore. And this island is feeling even more neglected because now the core is all over here. And a major city is going to be set up right on this coast, and it is going to be made the capital of the country, which just enrages this area even more. The son of the King of Malaysia, who technically has no power because the king picks who's next, is going to be very, very enraged with his father. He's going to try to break away and form his own country here. So that is what he's going to be doing. He's going to be forming this light blue nation country over here, and also taking this island, promising the people here that they will be treated better, and these people are going to be very happy about that. So anyways, this country is going to be expanding to try to compete with the Sumatran country at this point. So this isn't a Malaysian country, this is a Sumatran country. So they're going to be competing with each other and trying to, I don't know, I guess like have dominance over the Strait of Malacca, which isn't really important at this point, but they want it. They want the stuff in here. They want the fish. Even though these guys like the Indian Ocean better, they want control over this. They know that it's a very valuable land over here. Anyways, these Sumatran people are going to be conquering some of these islands. Wait, what? How is that there? Why are you there? Go away. And eventually, the Sumatrans are going to discover this very tip of the Sumatran island, and there's going to be a little boat sent out here, and they're going to see what they can find. However, this boat is shipwrecked, and it just crashed off the coast of this island. However, the second boat does manage to land on this island, and they just destroy this. They chop down literally every single tree on this island, and they ransack it, and it's just a mess. All of the wildlife here is gone. They just ransack this island, and they're going to build a city on here. Very similar to this city, but they want this city to be a very core part of it, because it's going to be like a fishing connection. They're gonna be a lot of fishing in these waters, similar to over here, but like even more so. They want this to be like a huge floating island city, which I don't know if they have the technology for, but that's what they want. So these Indonesian Sumatran peoples are going to conquest up this island at the very tip of it, and they're going to assimilate this island as part of their land, and obviously they're going to set up a major city on this island. And this major city is going to be quite small at first, but a lot of people are going to be moving here, hearing about the plans that they have, and eventually they're also going to set up another major city over here, so there can be a connection between the two, and there's going to be a lot of boats going back and forth. Some of them are going to shipwreck because the boats aren't very good at this point, but there are still going to be boats going back and forth between these two islands. And at this point, we're going to see our third starting area in the wicso, which is going to be right here in between Europe and Anatolia. So there's going to be a small kingdom forming in this Constantinople or Istanbul area, and they are going to be stretching around this small sea. I don't know the name of it, but this little sea here. And this country is going to be the magenta team. They're going to take control of the strait here and the surrounding lands. So they're just going to completely surround it. Their country is going to look something like this. And they're going to set up a major city right over here on the Aegean Sea. This country is also going to expand up over here and take control of this Thessaloniki area, this Macedonian area. They're going to take control of this, and they are eventually going to expand up into this area. Eventually, at this point, the people that are living in this Thessaloniki area are going to form their own state, which is going to be this dark blue team. So we have another little sort of city-state here. They're going to set up a major city right here, and eventually this major city is going to grow into a capital, and they're going to have an absolute monarchy system. And as well as that, this major city is also going to become a capital with a similar absolute monarchy system. Eventually these two city-states are going to meet up over here, and there's going to be a few border skirmishes, and there's going to be some border disputes, and eventually they agree on the border, which is this. However, while doing this, this magenta team, they are neglecting this area a lot. They kind of focus a lot on the Aegean Sea and the coast over here and the sort of western area. They are not caring for the eastern area very much. So that is going to cause the eastern area to split away into this greenish team. And this greenish team is not going to have any major cities for now. It's kind of just going to be a bunch of villages, but they are not liking this pink team. It's actually kind of like the same colors as the ones in South America, but like in Europe. So that's kind of funny. Anyways, these more Anatolian peoples are going to be exploring the Black Sea coast. It's a very foggy area here, also kind of mountainous in the south. So they're just going to be hugged to the coast, trying to follow this river, but it's a bit hard because of the mountains. So they're going to continue to go this coast, but all the explorers over here that they sent out are going to die. So it's kind of just going to be this Black Sea coast here. This country is going to take control of some of this land and kind of hug the coast. And this country is eventually going to set up a major city right here, and is going to be their capital city. But that is going to be it for the first episode of this wicso. I'm going to be doing more of this. I'm going to be trying to do this like at least every week, so I hope you enjoy that. I'm really excited I have a lot of ideas that I want to do here, so I'm really excited to do those. So bye.